You're listening to the Travis Makes Money podcast. Hey, what's going on, money makers? Welcome back to the Travis Makes Money podcast, where it's our mission to help you make more money, whether that's a side hustle, a new skill, a promotion at work, a new job or business, whatever it is. We want you to make some more money. Today on the show, we're going to be talking about starting your own business with my old and good friend, Chris Vasquez. Chris is now a tech investor and a founder. He's the CEO of Quantum as well, which is an executive recruiting firm for technology startups doing, just a casual 1.5 to 2 million a month in revenue. But before we jump into this conversation with Chris, if you're tuning in and wondering how I go about building relationships with the amazing people on this show or on my other show, Travis Makes Friends, it's through the podcast. The podcast is the unlock to help me explode my network, create a better personal brand, build more content for social, sharpen my own expertise. And then it also pays me money through sponsors to do all of those things every month. So it's a really, really good use of my time. So if any of that sounds appealing to you, 7, 8, or 9-figure business owners, then head over to travischappell.com/coaching. I'm taking on 1 or 2 one-on-one coaching clients, which I've not done in a very long time, to walk you through how to launch and have a successful podcast or fix your existing podcast. So travischappell.com/coaching, if that's you. Chris, what's up, dude? Welcome to the show.
What's up, brother? Thanks for having me. Funny, I'll just note this to start. This is not paid whatsoever, but I actually was one of your podcast guests.
That's right.
And coaching clients. The moment I decided I wanted to create a podcast, I hit you up, flew out to Vegas and coached with you, and have launched a podcast since. And I can definitely vouch that it has tremendously changed my life, and everyone should be creating a brand and starting a podcast.
Dude, if you're a relationship guy, like if you thrive off of getting to know people, it's just it's not even to me like a part of the discussion anymore. It's just like you got to have one. You just got to experience what it does for you, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, let's start with the softball question, bro. How do you currently make money? I know we talked about it in the bio, but I want to hear from you.
So my main source of income is my business. It's called Quantum. We built a new model of recruiting company. I noticed there's executive recruiting companies that would focus on, VP and C-suite hires for companies. And there's the traditional staffing companies who do lower level recruiting. I decided I wanted to play in the startup world and build companies. And so when I launched this business about 5 years ago, I said, I want to work with the most inspiring Silicon Valley founders that are changing the world. And I don't want to just place a few people on their team. I want to build entire companies. I want to be the catalyst for their massive success. And so I launched a company where we essentially are a hybrid. We can do everything all in one. It's a compound startup where we can join a company when they've raised $5 or $10 million seed funding, and we can help them scale all the way through going public. And that's building all their executive teams. It's building their engineering and product teams top to bottom. And so over the last 5 years, we've worked with about 300 companies now. We've invested in a vast number of them, which I will say none of that is liquid yet. Investing has a lot longer time horizon to actually making money. But it's a heavy cash flow, high profit margin business. We're brushing up on $2 million a month consistently now, and been scaling that and plan to take that much, much bigger. But the income from that business is my biggest moneymaker.
Yeah, I would say so, bro. I would say so. It's super cool doing the show, man, because I get to watch people's entire journeys sometimes. And I know that's definitely how it's been with you. I know when we first connected, it was more just like, I'm looking for my next thing, and I'm, trying to meet some interesting people. And then me and you just kind of jumped on a call and started getting to know each other more. And like, sometimes you just meet people and you're like, oh, this is my type of person. Like we get along. We think the same way. And so when we were talking, I was like, this guy's going to go do some cool shit, but I had zero idea that it was like, that this was a realm that you were even considering, or that you had previous connections in this world. So how does one just launch into serving, a Series B companies that are getting massive rounds of funding to become like their sole recruiter? Like how did you even like begin to get involved in that space?
Well, I think what's interesting with service-based businesses is most of them actually have a pretty low barrier to entry. It's pretty easy to start a service business. It doesn't cost a lot of money. The hard part is just getting the customer traction initially, and then actually being able to provide results better than the average person in the market. And so I fell into recruiting right out of school. It was the only thing I really knew. And I worked at a big company and then a couple smaller companies, and I learned the fundamentals. However, when I launched the company, I had no experience in startups. I had never done an executive search before. I had no CEO contacts, no investor contacts or VCs. So although I had done the active recruiting for some big Fortune 500 companies on some lower level roles, I didn't have 90% of the skill sets I needed to be where I am today when I started. But I just
Naturally.
had a burning desire to serve this particular customer. I knew I wanted to be, side by side with the biggest founders that were changing the world, and I wanted to be a part of their stories. And I was obsessed with serving founders. And I didn't have any in my network at the time, but I just knew intuitively after working in the industry for so long that I just had one particular person I was really passionate about serving. And then I asked myself, okay, well, who would I have to be and what would I have to do to create game-changing value for this person?
Mm.
And so I was able to leverage my just business development skills to go out there and land a few customers. And then it was really about just absolutely killing it. Like my first client, luckily, when I started the company, was a firm called ClickUp, and they were nobodies back then. They were just a handful of guys with no funding, and no venture firms would actually invest in them. And I ended up placing over 50 people with them, and I was the first investor in the company. And because I grinded 100-hour weeks and made sure that that CEO, Zeb, who's a very close friend, was an absolute raving fan of me, I was able to catapult and leverage the former success there. So I think when you're going into something new, number one is you have to have skill sets, right? I'd already been cultivating skill sets of business development. How do I go and prospect and get customers to take meetings with me that I don't know? And then I was good at recruiting, right? I actually had the skill. And I don't think everyone should go right into entrepreneurship. I actually think there's a huge advantage in working for other companies or having mentors that are already experts in the thing that you want to do and
100%.
picking up as much as you can until you have enough savings and enough skill set to be like, okay, I think I could figure this out on my own. Because I had success at multiple companies prior in recruiting. So that gave me enough confidence to say,
Yeah.
I haven't done this type of recruiting. It's a slightly different sport. I don't have the connections. There's a lot of knowledge that I'm missing,
Yeah.
but I have confidence in my skill set because I've done this multiple times over. So I do think there's value in working for other people and getting yourself to a level to where you're never going to have full confidence when you go start a business, but where you have enough.
Yeah.
Where,
Yeah.
where
If you have full confidence, you might be, a sociopath or something. I don't know. Like,
Yeah, or you're just
yeah.
completely delusional because you're going to get your teeth kicked in.
Yeah,
But yeah,
exactly.
I would just pick a vehicle where there's a big proven market. Like I don't believe 99.9% of people should go try to create these novel technologies or go try to create a market. Like it's
Correct.
really, really hard. So I think find a proven market that already has a lot of successful incumbents and just iterate on the existing model. Say, how could I do this 25, 50% better? How
Yeah.
could I niche down and become more of an expert in this one little niche and just dominate this niche where I can be the best in the world at something super niche? Like for us, we do a lot of different skill sets and we build comprehensive companies, but what we're the best in the world at conclusively is seed to series B engineering and AI hiring. We're the number one firm in the world in that niche. And that niche alone, if we just focus there, is enough to do hundreds of millions a year.
Yeah. No
And
kidding.
so if you pick something small and just really focus on honing that skill set and that craft to where you're one of the best in the world at that thing, you will be paid forever.
Yeah, and the punchline, by the way, on that ClickUp story, for those who don't know ClickUp, is that their most recent valuation, correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, I think was 4.5 billion.
Yeah, it's a $4 billion company. At the
Yeah.
last valuation several years ago, they've had a lot of growth since then.
Yeah.
But yeah, I joined when they had no funding, and I wrote a check at 100 million valuation, so it was a 40x return on the investment.
Yeah.
Um, and they were a huge, huge client, so that was where a lot of my initial cash flow came that paid for the team I have today.
Yeah.
And so it really just takes one great customer to change your life.
Yeah, I love this, dude. I don't want to glaze over the first couple of things that you mentioned there. For people listening, like, there's a lot of people who are just like, hey, I know that there's something more here. I know, I thought my 80K a year job was going to do the trick. Turns out with, the state of the economy, with inflation, with, everything increasing. I got 3 kids now, and I got a wife, and we got a mortgage to pay. And now there's too much month at the end of the money, and I don't know what I'm doing. And I got to figure out something else. You said that you used your business development skills and went out and got your first couple of clients. I don't want to gloss over that, because that right there, like, you said it like it was just like nothing, like it was just a fart in the wind, bro. But there's a ton of people listening right now that just like can't imagine what that's like to go from I don't have anything to I have a customer or two customers and now I can deliver for them? Talk to me about like the specifics. Like what did you actually physically do to go get those first two clients, customers?
Physically, I didn't know what I was specialist in. I would just, hey, I do recruiting, and I would basically make up whatever I was doing to speak to the client, right? So I'd say,
Yeah.
hey, I'd reach out over LinkedIn and I'd reach
LinkedIn.
out over emails. LinkedIn has been the best tool I built the whole company on. And anyone can do this, right? Just figure out, all right, who do I think my ideal customers are? Right. For me, it was like VP of HR, CEOs, anyone in the C-suite who would basically be a stakeholder that would allow me a seat at the table to pitch my services. And then I would just make huge lists of them from the different companies. I would look up companies that got funding recently on
Would
LinkedIn and through Crunchbase is an easy
Crunchbase, yeah,
tool.
okay. So
Crunchbase is
Crunchbase,
easy. So I would find the
Crunchbase is
companies that raised funding and I would reach out to all the C-suites, all the executives of these companies with a pitch. And by the way, I was getting nowhere for a long time. And then I found this LinkedIn automation ad on Facebook. It was a $6,000 course that said, hey, automate your LinkedIn outreach. And I'm like, wait, if I automate this and use a bot, I can reach out to 700 people a week, which is LinkedIn's max at the time. And so I bought this course and it came with all these copywriters. They sucked. And so I'm like, cool, well, I have underlying technology. And then I hired another coach to teach me copywriting. So I'm like, how do I infiltrate people's psyches with compelling copy? And I did 16 campaigns with nothing. I had no results. So I would write these sequences and I would drop all these names of all these executives from the companies into that sequence. And it would just every 3 days, every week, it would hit them with a new message. 16 campaigns, I had nothing. And then on the 17th campaign, there was a company called Kanji that got caught in that trap. And they're like, wow, great message, man. This was such an authentic message. I really appreciate it. And in my head, I'm like, well, that was my robot.
yeah.
But I wrote the message. But that ended up leading to a pitch that I closed, and that client paid me $3.5 million that year. And it was my 17th campaign, though. And if I had stopped,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have broken through. And the headline here is if you want to go start something, if you want to make more money, you have to take on the role of a scientist.
Hmm.
You have to be an experimenter
Yeah.
because you don't know what's going to work. And
Yeah.
most people, they get stuck in the quagmire and they have to have a blueprint. And this is the biggest hack around success and making more money. If you want to make a lot of money, you have to be the person who navigates the unknown and discovers the solution that then creates the blueprints other people follow. If you want to
Yes.
make a decent amount of money, find someone else who's done that for you and follow their blueprint. But the people who get paid asymmetrically, they're the ones who go into the unknown. And they're the ones who go discover the solution and they
Yeah.
figure out the frame, they figure out the formula and they make it work. And then they hire people and tell them how they did it and just replicate themselves, right? But if you can go out in the unknown and experiment and try a bunch of different marketing campaigns and outreaches, you're going to figure it out eventually if you stick with it long enough and you are intelligent and you iterate on your work.
Yeah.
But most people get stuck from even starting that action because they're like, oh, I don't know what the perfect message is going to be. I don't know if this is going to land well. I don't know if they're going to perceive me this way, or I don't even know if that's a good client for me. That's accurate. You're not going to know. And the only way you get data is through experience. And
Yes.
so if you want to be successful, you need a massive bias towards action and just turn off the performer in your mind of thinking you need it to go the way you want it to go and just measure yourself purely on activity and then refine that activity over time and reflect and get better. But if you can just break through that pain barrier in your head of like needing to know what to do and needing to know where it's going to lead you, and you can just take shit tons of action, you will figure it out. And then you'll hire the people that couldn't.
Yeah, dude, my neck is hurting from nodding in agreement with you right now, because you just touched on so many things. One of them being that you don't know what's going to work, and that means you don't know what's going to work across the entire business. Like what you said, you didn't even know what your offer was, and you also didn't know which marketing piece was going to hit. It's just a matter of like getting to talk to that person, asking them genuine questions, and being like, what is the core problem that this person's trying to solve? And
Yes.
then when they ask me if I do this thing, I go, yes, absolutely. I also do that. Yes, that is
Yeah, and you
included
know
in
what's
my
interesting,
in my
Travis,
scope of work.
is you can't like life and success is like a spiral staircase, and you can't see the top of the staircase from the bottom. You have to take the first 5 steps, and then you can peek around the corner, and you'll see the next 5. You take
Yeah.
those 5, you peek around the corner, see the next 5. So when I landed ClickUp as a client, I'm like, what type of business is this? All right, it's a product-led growth bottoms up SaaS company. So after I had that testimonial, I messaged every other PLG SaaS company and said, hey, I'm the number one recruiter for PLG SaaS companies. I had
Yeah.
one client,
Right.
right? I had one client, but then it was a big logo and I had a lot of evidence that I did a great job for them. And then what do you know? I wanted to go into crypto and I had no crypto clients. I mean, I owned a lot of Bitcoin, but I just declared, hey, I'm the number one recruiter for crypto companies.
Yeah.
I would declare it before it was even true because the vision in my mind of where we would be, it was true. And so when you are a founder, when you're going out there and doing something that doesn't exist and you're taking this energy and alchemizing it into matter, you have to declare who you're going to be and what you're going to do
Yeah.
and sell with that level of certainty and kind of bend the world to your desire. And then you back it up with evidence over time. So every vertical I've gone into SaaS startups, crypto startups, AI startups. Every time I go into a new vertical, I lead with a declaration that I'm the best at this.
Hmm.
And I just follow it up with a lot of evidence. But I think there's a power in that is most people are waiting for evidence to
Yes.
validate what they think they are. And you have to create that persona and that reality in your mind. And that has to be more real than the physical evidence you can experience with your senses. And if you can brainwash yourself and come with that level of energy and focus every day, you will outperform most of the world.
Yeah. And then the second thing I want to highlight there is that it was your 17th campaign. You're sending hundreds, if not thousands, of messages per campaign, right? So we're talking thousands, maybe tens of thousands of messages sent without a single person responding and booking a call, and then you finally get one to do it. And it's a $3.5 million deal, and which brings me to another point, which is always going to take more effort than you probably think it's going to take.
Travis,
And people,
I've done 10,000 sales calls. I've done
10,000 sales calls.
10,000 sales calls, 2,000 in-person meetings, over 10,000 candidate calls on the recruiting front. I've sent out over 100,000 messages. And I've read at least 100 books just on sales and marketing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
People underestimate how much work it is. And that's why you have to be obsessed and you have to not think, how can I make the most amount of money quicker? You have to think, how can I become the type of person that can make the money? And that's
Absolutely.
a pure skill set game. So your focus is on building an undeniable skill set that you can apply to a lot of different customer bases. I could go sell lip gloss right now and absolutely kill it, right? It doesn't matter because I've built the operating system that I can put into any vehicle. And so for people that want to make more money, realize that it has nothing to do with where you came from. It has nothing to do with what you currently make today. It's a simple formula of how valuable are your skill sets to people. And
Mhm.
everything is a skill, everything is learnable. So if there is a skill and you have some sort of inkling of passion for it, you have some sort of natural predisposition for that skill set, whether it be sales or programming or copywriting, whatever it may be, you just want to master that and get so good and then offer those services for free to people
Yep.
if needed when you're starting, just to get testimonials, especially big names, and do the work for free for them and showcase that value. And then once you get one good testimonial, you can build an offering and you can scale the hell out of it. But it
Yeah.
really means you got to focus on acquiring skill sets and then producing some evidence that you can market to then build momentum.
Yeah, dude, you're speaking my language right now. This is all really, really good stuff, and it speaks exactly to the person that's listening to this right now. It's just like this: the gap is so large in their mind from where they are now to where you are. But it's so great to listen to like the very beginning stages, because you took something from nothing and turned it into something very, very significant, and
And when I
which
met you,
which is another
Travis,
piece. What's that?
yeah, when I met you, I wasn't an entrepreneur. I was still at a job that I wasn't really happy with. I
Yeah,
had tons of limiting beliefs. I doubted myself. And I'm like, would I be successful on my own? I don't know. And like we all go through that,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
But at some point, it's got to decide to do it and to bet on yourself.
yeah.
And your level of money making, your level of success is going to be very correlated to how much you bet on yourself in this world.
Absolutely. And how much you improve yourself. I'm a big fan of those like identity based, habit based goals rather than like achievement based goals. Because, like you said, a lot of times the question isn't how can I achieve this thing? The question is how can I put myself in a position to become the person who's capable of achieving this thing? Because likely who you are right now is not capable of doing it. Like I'm not a fan of this like the overly positive psychology movement that just is like you're awesome and you're amazing and you're incredible just the way you are and whatever blah blah blah. It's like you have the potential, to be all of those things 100%. You are uniquely you, and you are special because you're different than everybody else on the planet. But that does not inherently mean that you deserve success. That does not inherently mean that you deserve to be able to wake up every morning and work on your dream and make good money doing it. It doesn't mean that you just are entitled to these things. You have to become the person that's capable of achieving them, and that's the delta that most people are not. Like, they're not solving for that problem. They're looking at the goal like, how do I make $1 million this year? It's like, well, the question you should be asking yourself is, how do I become the person who's capable of making $5 million this year? So that 1 million is just a walk in the park.
Such a great point, dude. It took me, I would say, 8 to 9 years to become a millionaire and 1 year to actually make $1 million.
To actualize it. Yeah, right. Exactly.
Like, it was like 8 years of building my mind and my skill sets and who I am to physically embody the energy and the mindset of a millionaire. And then once I was that person and launched my vehicle, I was a multi-millionaire within 16 months.
Yeah.
Right. Because I already did the inner work to become that person. And I would rehearse the person I wanted to be in my head through hundreds and hundreds of hours of meditation, where I would meditate on who I wanted to be, how I wanted to act, how I would deal with customers, how I would handle conflicts. And I disciplined myself, and I was reading and researching books on how to master my time. And I was really focused on, how do I become the most elite operator of my life? And how do I unleash my mind and deprogram all the limiting things that were holding me back from stepping into the vision I knew I wanted? And doing that deep inner work consistently is what allowed my gifts to come out, because you're right, we are special. We all have gifts. The problem is we're blocking ourselves and we're not utilizing them because we have shitty programming that's not allowing us to access the power that's already in our hard drive.
Yeah.
And so if you go do that inner work, you can unlock that RAM and you can apply that to your goals, and you can fly, and you can eliminate all this resistance that's really just you against you, right? And you got to, like you mentioned, you have to build the habits, right? Like, for me, when I was starting the company, I was running out of money. It was right during COVID, and I was in scarcity and fear. But I would meditate and get my body in the right energy state every morning. I would do cold plunges, and I hated cold plunges, but I'm like, I don't even care if there's a health benefit. I just want to build a psychological edge and train my body to be able to operate calmly under stress and chaos. I would read 30 pages every single day. I would journal. I was doing everything I needed to prime my mind and my body to feel rich, to feel abundant, so I could attract that into my life. And I think it's really underrated for people that want to make more money. Your identity is the ceiling in your life. You can never outperform your limiting beliefs. If you only think you're worth 100 grand and you think making 500 grand is impossible, you will not even be shown the data in the real world through your reticular activating system that will allow you to capitalize on those opportunities, because it's above who you think you are.
Yeah.
And so you have to rewire your brain and start thinking about a future and placing your attention on where you want to be, and practice rehearsing, feeling grateful for it, and practice making that feel normal. There's a really cool tip there I'll share that I think is really powerful for people, because there's probably people listening that they're making 50 grand, 100 grand. They're like, I want to make 200 grand or 500 grand. I want to unlock a new level of life for me, but I keep feeling stuck by who I think I am because of my past. Your brain cannot tell the difference between an imagined and a real event. It has no capacity to do that. So that's why if I talk to you, okay, imagine nails on a chalkboard. If you really imagine it, your hair will stand up. All you did was activate a mental image, and that had a physiological reaction. Well, if you meditate in an alpha or theta frequency, you calm your body down and you start rehearsing who you want to be in a very relaxed state, and you can start feeling what it feels like to be that person. You actually create synthetic memories in the brain. They get recorded as real memories in your brain. So if I wanted to go speak on stage, but I was terrified, I would rehearse that moment, and I would picture the crowd going crazy. I'd picture myself killing it and how amazing it feels. I would rehearse that 500 times. By the time I go on the stage, it's not my first time, it's my 501st time.
Yeah.
And confidence is built on evidence. So if you can build evidence in your brain by doing these mental rehearsal tricks and actually feeling comfortable and normal in situations, you're going to reprogram your body and your mind to believe that you can do it and that you feel safe and comfortable doing it. And that is the key. You have to feel normal and safe and comfortable being this person. And so you have to embody your future self now. That's the key.
Be it until you become it. Absolutely. Chris, this has been awesome, dude. I wish we had some more time. We'll definitely have to do a part two sometime, maybe even a longer form in person someday. But dude, I love. I'm a big fan. Love what you've been doing. Love rooting on friends from afar and seeing the cool things that everybody's building. It's really really cool for me to be kind of a observer in the journey. So thank you for coming on. Let's move into the last segment here. Some quick random questions, quick random answers. We'll get you out of here.
Sure. Let's
What
do it.
profession other than your own do you think that it would have been fun to master?
Media. I think content is the most powerful way to impact the world. So I think building a media company is an amazing way to get great ideas out in the world and actually transform the world.
If you could sit on a park bench with someone, past or present, and chat for an hour, who would it be?
Nelson Mandela.
How do you like to consume information best? Books, audiobooks, blogs, podcasts, YouTube videos, newsletters?
Doing.
What is your go-to pump-up song?
Ooh, that's a good one. There's this new one called, I forgot the name of it, but it's Nati Peluso, this Argentinian girl, but it's one of the coolest Latin bangers I've heard in a long time.
What is something you are not very good at?
Listening.
And as we get everything wrapped up here, Chris, where can people go to get more from you?
Instagram, Chris Vasquez. Twitter, I'm Chris Vasquez. LinkedIn, Chris Vasquez. And then I also have a podcast called World Class, and that is on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube.
Go check out World Class. Chris is intuitively really, really good at having these conversations, asks really great questions, and has access to some of the best founders and smartest entrepreneurs on the face of the planet. So you're doing yourself a disservice by not going and checking out World Class. And then Instagram, Chris Vasquez, and you heard all the other places. If you want to go connect with them there, you can go connect with them there. Chris, thanks for doing this. Everybody else listening, tuning in, remember, money only solves your money problems, but it's a little bit easier to solve the other problems with a little bit of money in the bank. So let's solve that problem first here on the Travis Makes Money podcast. Catch you next time. Peace out.